I want you to close your eyes for a second. Okay, really, keep them closed.
Okay, they're close.
No, I want you to picture yourself standing on the bridge of a ship. And I don't mean, a little rowboat or some weekend fishing trawler.
Right.
I mean a massive, state-of-the-art ocean-faring vessel. You are the captain, you got the uniform, the hat, the whole 9 yards.
I'm picturing it. High seas, salt spray, the whole bit. I'm there.
Exactly. So now look at your console. Sitting right there, glowing in the low light of the bridge, is a navigation system that is it's the absolute pinnacle of human engineering.
Okay.
It is pulling real-time data from a whole constellation of satellites orbiting the planet. It's running these physics simulations that account for the curvature of the Earth, the drag of the tides, the wind resistance.
Everything. It's got all the variables.
It has all the variables. It uses the immutable, perfect laws of mathematics, and it tells you, down to the millimeter, exactly where you are and exactly where the shore is.
That sounds like a dream. I mean, you have certainty. You have safety.
You have total control. But here is the twist. Instead of looking at that screen, instead of trusting the data that is right there, flashing in high definition, you decide to turn your back on it.
Oh, no.
You walk out of the bridge, out onto the deck, and you walk into a thick, soupy fog.
Okay.
I'm talking visibility 0. You can't see your hand in front of your face. You squint your eyes, you sniff the air, and you try to guess where the land is based on the smell of the wind and maybe, I don't know, some old sea shanty your grandfather used to sing to you when you were 6.
That's terrifying. That sounds like a recipe for a shipwreck.
Right.
Or at the very least, you're going to be arriving at your destination days, maybe even weeks late.
It sounds totally absurd, doesn't it? Like, who in the 21st century would choose the foggy guess over the precision machine? It's negligence.
You'd be fired.
You'd be fired. But, and here is the hook that brings us together today, the stack of sources we are diving into argue that this is exactly what is happening in the modern world regarding one of the oldest human practices, looking at the sky to mark time.
It creates such a fascinating tension. It's the battle between the visual, what we can see with our limited, our biological eyes, and the mathematical, what we know to be true through calculation.
Right.
Or, to use the terminology directly from our sources, it is the battle between the I Spy game and the husband.
Husband, I love that word. It just has such a weight to it, doesn't it? We are going to be unpacking that a lot today.
A lot.
So, welcome to the deep dive. I'm your host, the empiricist, and I'm the one obsessed with the data logs, the orbital mechanics, and just the sheer precision of this whole thing.
And I'm here to bring the rationalist perspective, to look at the philosophy, the theology, and the psychology behind it all.
Which is so important.
Because, as our sources point out, this isn't just about calendars. It's not just about whether a month has 29 or 30 days. This is a battle for the soul of rationality itself. It's a clash between Taqlid, which is the blind imitation of the past, and Aql, the intellect, or reason.
We have 2 incredible pieces of source material today. One is a poem, which is, it's frankly beautiful, but also incredibly melancholic and biting. It's titled The Crescent Illusion. And the other is a fiery, and I mean fiery theological essay titled The Sabotage of Reason, the Mullah versus the Mizan.
The titles alone tell you we aren't pulling any punches today. Sabotage of reason.
I know.
That implies intent, doesn't it? It implies that the confusion isn't accidental, it's manufactured.
It's manufactured, exactly. So our mission today is to explore this sabotage. We want to understand how a civilization that literally defined astronomy for the world, that wrote the textbooks on celestial mechanics, somehow ended up, according to these authors, trading a legacy of scientific breakthrough for a game of I Spy.
It's the story of a broken compass versus a perfect machine. So where should we even begin?
Let's start with the irony. I think that's the best place to ground this whole conversation. The essay makes a huge point about the historical context. If you go back, say, 1,000 years to the so-called Golden Age, who was doing the heavy lifting in astronomy?
He was the Islamic civilization.
Yeah.
The source explicitly mentions this, and historically, it's undeniable. They were the vanguard.
They really were.
We're talking about massive breakthroughs in trigonometry, in celestial mechanics, spherical geometry. I mean, the reason we have so many stars with Arabic names,
Altair, Deneb,
Betelgeuse, Rigel, it's because these scholars were obsessed with mapping the heavens accurately.
They weren't just looking up at the sparkles, they were measuring them. They built the astrolabes. They calculated the circumference of the Earth when everyone else in Europe was still, figuring out basic geography.
And it's so important to know why they did this. It wasn't just, idle curiosity. It was actually driven by faith.
Right. It was a religious necessity.
It was. They needed to know the direction of Mecca for prayer, the
Right.
Qibla. They needed to know the precise times for the 5 daily prayers, which are all determined by the sun's position. So religion didn't suppress science. It demanded it. It demanded precision.
And yet the source argues that there has been this massive regression. That is the sabotage mentioned in the title. It's a very strong claim.
It's a huge claim. The argument is that despite this incredible heritage of precision, contemporary practice has, for some reason, reverted to a reliance on the naked eye.
It's bizarre.
We have these high precision calculations available. We know where the moon is, down to the second. But we've discarded that science in favor of, standing on a roof and squinting into the sunset.
It's like inventing the GPS, perfecting it, proving it works for centuries, and then suddenly refusing to use it because you prefer asking for directions at a gas station.
It's exactly that. And the source frames this as a tragedy. It says we are disregarding the very science that this civilization helped build.
So it's a rejection of one's own intellectual inheritance.
That's it. It's walking away from the legacy of the very ancestors you claim to revere. It's a fundamental contradiction.
And the poem, The Crescent Illusion, it really captures the emotional weight of this. There's this one stanza that talks about moonstruck pilgrims. It says, "Moonstruck pilgrims trace the steps false fathers chose to teach, bound by words that tether us just out of wisdom's reach."
Oof. Bound by words. That is such a powerful image.
It is, isn't it?
It suggests that the limitation isn't physical. It's not that we can't see the truth. It's that we are intellectually tethered by a narrative, by a story we've been told.
And false fathers, that is a stinging critique. It's not just saying they were mistaken, it's saying they were false.
It's suggesting that the tradition being followed isn't the true tradition of wisdom, but a distorted one, a broken copy of the original.
Precisely. And the imagery of eyes that downward gaze, that struck me because usually when you think of astronomy or looking for the moon, you think of looking up.
Of course.
But the poet says we are gazing downward. What do you make of that?
I interpreted that as you're looking at the earth, you're looking at the books or the mud of tradition rather than looking at the actual reality of the heavens.
Yes, you're looking at the shadows cast by ancient lore, as the poem says, rather than the object itself.
It creates this profound disconnect. You're looking at the map drawn 500 years ago instead of looking at the terrain that's right in front of you.
And practically speaking, the empiricist in me just has to point out the logistical failure here. It's just inefficient. The poem mentions that the moon is often 2 days old by the time it is visually sighted.
Right, because the new moon, the actual astronomical conjunction happens.
Yeah.
But it's invisible to the naked eye for a while.
It has to get far enough away from the sun.
It needs to move away from the sun, reflect enough light, and be high enough above the horizon to actually be seen through the haze.
So think about what that means. We are proclaiming the dawn of a new design, a new month based on an aged sign. The month is effectively starting late.
Every single time.
The moon has been there for 48 hours, orbiting, doing its thing, but because a guy in a tower didn't see it through the smog, we pretend it wasn't there.
It creates this gap between reality and our acknowledgement of reality.
Yeah.
The source essentially argues that the truth of the moon's existence is independent of our observation of it. But the current practice treats the moon like it's Schrodinger's cat.
That's a great analogy.
It doesn't exist until we look at it,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very, very strange philosophical stance for a theistic system that believes in an objective reality.
It's absurd for a civilization that believes in an objective reality created by a single creator. It implies that human perception is the final arbiter of existence.
And that's a huge problem. This brings us to the technical critique of the human eye itself.
Mm-hmm.
The essay is, well, it's brutal on this.
It really is. It just lists the flaws one by one. Atmospheric distortion.
Which is huge.
Light pollution.
Another massive one in the modern age.
And just plain biological error.
It's the foggy rearview mirror from your opening analogy, right? The eye is a biological instrument. It is fallible. It gets tired. It gets tricked by clouds. It struggles with contrast.
Especially in the modern world, we have smog, we have city lights. The horizon is almost never clear like it might have been in the desert 1,000 years ago.
And the source contrasts this biological limitation with a very specific concept, the concept of ilm.
Okay, so define ilm for us in this context. What does it really mean here?
So ilm means knowledge or certainty. But in this context, it really refers to empirical, verifiable fact. The source contrasts ilm with zan,
Zen.
which means conjecture or guesswork. The essay quotes the Quran directly on this. Indeed, conjecture avails nothing against the truth.
So if you are relying on a sighting that might be a cloud or a scratch on a lens or just, I don't know, wishful thinking because you want the holiday to start,
Right.
you are operating the realm of Zan. You're in the realm of guesswork.
Precisely. And if you have the orbital mechanics, the ilm, that tells you the moon is there with 100% certainty, why would you choose the conjecture?
You wouldn't.
The rationalist perspective here is that choosing the I over the math is actually a rejection of truth. It's actively preferring a maybe over a definitely.
It really highlights the absurdity of the situation. I mean, we see these arguments every single year.
Every year.
Did you see it? I think I saw it. No, that was a plane. Meanwhile, the computer's sitting there, humming quietly, saying, guys, it was born 14 hours ago at these exact coordinates.
It turns a majestic, predictable cosmic event into a petty squabble, a debate.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the second section of our deep dive. We have to move away from the frustration on the horizon and look at the alternative that the sources offer, the clockwork universe,
The machine.
the system.
Husban.
Okay, let's unpack this word. The essay cites a specific verse from Surah Rahman, verse 5. The sun and the moon move by precise calculation, and that word is husband. And the word itself, husband, it comes from the root describing calculation, accounting, mathematics. It implies a system, a definite quantifiable order.
It doesn't imply a visual spectacle, does it?
Not at all. It doesn't rely on an audience. It implies an internal logic, a perfect mechanism.
That is a crucial distinction. The source argues that if the creator defines the movement of the sun and moon as husband, as calculation, then ignoring the math for the eye is a fundamental rejection of the nature of creation itself.
That's the theological hook.
Yeah.
That's the core of the argument. If you believe God created the universe, and God tells you that the universe moves by precise calculation, then using calculation to track it is the most religious thing you can do.
It's aligning your method with the creator's method.
You're speaking the language of the engineer who built the machine.
Right. You aren't imposing math onto nature. You are discovering the math that is already woven into its very fabric.
Exactly. And the essay goes even further. It brings up this concept of Sunnat-Allah.
That sounded very laws of physics to me when I read it.
It is. It's a very direct parallel. Sunnat-Allah translates to the system of Allah, or the established way of Allah. The source references a verse from Surah Al-Ahzab, stating that you will not find any change in the way of Allah.
Meaning the laws of the universe don't just flip-flop. Gravity doesn't take a day off.
Right. The moon doesn't decide to stop and have a coffee break. It is an immutable law.
A constant.
A constant. The moon's orbit is a perfectly calibrated machine. It's reliable. And the source argues that by insisting on visual sighting, religious authorities are, maybe unintentionally, implying that the system is erratic.
That's a heavy accusation.
It is. They're implying that the Sunnat-Allah, God's system, needs human verification to be true.
Like the machine is broken and needs a human to come and double-check it every single month.
Yeah, let me just make sure the cosmos is running correctly this evening.
I love the provocative thought the essay poses here. It's so simple but so sharp, it asks. Does the moon wait for a man in a tower to see it before it starts its orbit?
And the answer is obviously not. The moon is a rock in a vacuum. It obeys the laws of gravity. It is completely, utterly indifferent to our gaze.
But we act like it does. The source calls this intellectual arrogance. And I have to agree. It's placing the fallible human eyesight above what they call divine precision.
It's saying, God, I know you set this up to run perfectly, but I'm just going to check with my binoculars to make sure you did it right this month.
Wait, it is the ultimate hubris, but it's disguised as piety.
That's a perfect way to put it. You think you are being humble by following tradition, but you are actually being arrogant by questioning the precision of the cosmos.
So this is the big question then. If the math is perfect and the eye is flawed, why are we still doing this? Why are we still playing I Spy? This has to bring us to the psychology of it all.
This is where we enter the domain of the rationalist. We have to understand the human element here because logically it doesn't make sense. The source identifies a specific disease, as it calls it, Taqlid.
Taqlid, we mentioned it at the top. Blind imitation.
Yes. It's the practice of following the ancestors or the scholars without critical thought, without asking why. The source quotes Surah Al-Baqarah. Rather, we will follow that which we found our fathers doing.
And the rebuttal in that verse is absolutely scathing. It's a question. It asks, even though their fathers understood nothing, nor were they guided.
It's a direct attack on the argument of this is how we've always done it.
Yeah, the ultimate appeal to tradition.
The source is saying that just because your ancestors did it, that doesn't make it right, especially if your ancestors were operating without the tools and knowledge that you have today.
The poem has this incredibly vivid imagery for it. Sheep follow cattle, paths worn deep but old.
It's a hierarchy of unthinking following. It's not even sheep following a shepherd who might know where he's going.
No.
It's just animals following other animals along a rutted path.
And it mentions the comfort of the trodden grooves. And it is easier, isn't it? It's so much easier to just do what everyone else is doing than to stand up and say, wait a minute, the math says something different.
Absolutely. There is safety in the herd. There's a comfort in not having to think for yourself. To answer the call to be bold, as the poem puts it, requires courage.
It really does.
It requires breaking with the community's habits. It requires using your own intellect, your own aql, which is scary. It means you're responsible for the conclusion.
There's a line in the poem that really stuck with me. Minds can drift like mist behind the bars.
That is beautiful and so tragic.
It is. What do you make of the bars? What are they?
I think the bars are the rigid structures of unexamined tradition. They are the self-imposed prisons of this is how it is and we don't ask why.
And the mind.
And the mind, which is supposed to be solid and sharp and analytical, becomes like mist. It loses its form. It just drifts without purpose.
And the potential for human advancement, the source says it slips like grains of desert sand. We are letting our collective potential just evaporate because we refuse to think critically.
It's a tragedy of wasted intellect. We have been given this incredible capacity to understand the universe, to decode the husband, and we let it drift away like mist because we are afraid to step out from behind the bars of tradition.
But it's not just about fear, is it? The essay takes a much darker turn here. It suggests there's a structural issue at play, a power dynamic.
Yes.
And this is where we get into what the source calls the theological crisis.
Yes, and this is by far the most controversial part of the source material. It's where the gloves really come off.
The essay uses the term mullah gods.
It's a jarring phrase. I mean, it's designed to shock. It's provocative.
And it accuses people of taking their scholars as lords besides Allah.
This is a direct reference to a verse in Surah At-Tawbah. And we need to be really clear about the mechanism here, because it's not saying people are literally, bowing down and worshiping the mullahs. It's far more subtle than that.
Right. Break it down for us. How does relying on a visual sighting equate to taking a scholar as a lord?
Okay, so let's consider the chain of command, so to speak. You have the data, the husband, the orbital mechanics, which the source argues is God's calculation. It is the direct, objective reality created by the divine.
Okay.
That data says, unequivocally, the month has started.
Okay. God's reality says, start. The green light is on.
The green light is on. Then you have the mullah, or the religious authority. He goes out, he looks at the sky, he doesn't see anything for whatever reason, clouds, smog, anything, and he declares the month has not started.
So human authority says stop, the light is red.
Precisely. Now, if the believer listens to the mullah over the data, whose word are they prioritizing?
The mullahs.
They're accepting the human negation of a divine positive. They are prioritizing the human word over the divine reality.
Wow. When you put it that way, the essay calls it systemic shirk, systemic idolatry.
That's the argument. By inserting themselves as the necessary gatekeepers of reality, these intermediaries are disrupting the direct connection between the believer and the Sunnat-Allah, the system of God.
They're making the system dependent on them rather than on the creator.
Exactly. And the essay mocks this dynamic relentlessly. It calls it the M-word game.
Yeah, that was a biting line.
It says they're playing I Spy with a little I starting with M for moon, or mullah.
It frames it as childish. We are dealing with cosmic mechanics, the beautiful, predictable rotation of celestial bodies, and we reduce it to a parlor game.
The contrast the source draws is between a global synchronized system, which the math allows for, and this localized chaos.
Talk about the mizan, the balance. The source brings this up.
Right. The mizan is a core concept. The balance. The universe is perfectly balanced. It's a harmonious system. But when you rely on local sightings, you completely fracture that balance.
Well, so?
Well, you have one village starting the month on Tuesday and the village 10 miles away starting on Wednesday, just because of a cloud or a different interpretation.
It turns the mizan into chaos. It creates division where there should be unity.
And that is the ultimate tragedy, according to the source. The Sunnat-Allah provides a mechanism for global unity, a single, calculated, universal moment for the new moon. But the insistence on the old method guarantees fragmentation.
It's incredibly frustrating. I'm getting frustrated just talking about it.
Me too.
But the sources don't just leave us in this pit of despair. There is a path forward. There's a section 5, the reconciliation.
Yes. And we have to talk about what the sources call sovereign intelligence.
The essay makes a very, very important point here. Adopting calculation isn't abandoning religion.
No.
I think a lot of people feel that way, Like, if we use science, we are becoming secular, we're losing the magic.
The source argues the exact opposite. It says that astronomy is a perfected tool, and using it is an act of religious sincerity, not an abandonment of faith. It even gives examples. It mentions nations like Turkey and Malaysia.
Right. They're cited as positive examples. The essay says they are honoring the mizan, honoring the balance.
By using calculation, they are acknowledging the perfection of the Creator's system. They aren't stripping the religion of mystery. They are recognizing that the mystery operates by understandable, beautiful laws.
There's a quote by the poet-philosopher Allama Iqbal in the essay that I think bridges this gap just perfectly.
Ah, yes. It's a fantastic quote.
Can you share it?
He said, "Knowledge devoid of love and reason is mere tumult for the intellect."
Mere tumult, just noise, chaos.
Iqbal is calling for a synthesis. He's saying you need ishq, which is this passionate love, this spiritual fervor, and you need to combine it with ilm, with knowledge, with reason.
So the blind imitation we talked about earlier, Taqlid, that lacks reason.
Exactly. Blind imitation is just tumult. It's doing things without understanding why. But, cold calculation, without faith, without love, can also be empty.
So the goal is to combine them.
The goal is to combine them. You love the Creator, ishq, so you use your intellect, aql, to understand and appreciate his system, ilm.
That is the reconciliation. It's not science versus religion. It's science as an expression of religion.
It's using the tools of science to better appreciate the art of creation. The poem pleads for this. It says, "To reconcile the heart and mind, let new insights unfold."
The objective, then, is to align the human account, our hisab, with the divine calculation, the husband.
We want our calendar to match God's clock. It's really that simple.
The rationalist in you must love that conclusion. It's so elegant.
It's deeply satisfying. It suggests that the universe is intelligible, that we aren't meant to be stumbling around in the dark. We are meant to understand. The source talks about recognizing the sovereign intelligence that underpins everything.
And to stop looking down at shadows, as the poem says.
Yes. To lift our gaze, not just physically looking up at the sky, but elevating our thinking. The verses are etched across the sky.
That's such a powerful image. The laws of physics are the verses. They are the signs.
And they outshine our earthly ways. Our little traditions, our I Spy games, our committee meetings, they are just dim candles compared to the blazing sun of the husband.
So we've gone on this whole journey. We've moved from the frantic whispers of the crowd, straining to see a faint crescent through the smog, to the absolute rhythmic certainty of the celestial clockwork.
We've moved from the anxiety of the broken compass to the calm and the precision of the machine.
It's been quite a journey. And honestly, reading these sources, I feel a sense of, responsibility.
That's the right word. Responsibility.
The source material leaves us with a really haunting question about agency. We have the tools. We have the mandate from the texts themselves. We have the brains.
So the question is, why are we so afraid to use them?
Yeah.
Are we holding on to the eye, onto the visual, the traditional, the safe because we love God? Or are we doing it because we fear the responsibility of using the intellect he gave us?
That's the kicker, isn't it? If you acknowledge the math, if you accept the husband, you have to acknowledge that you have the power to know the truth directly.
You can't hide behind the mulligan anymore. You can't blame the clouds. The responsibility falls on you.
Exactly. Agency is terrifying. But the source argues it is also the only path to true worship, to a faith that is reasoned and chosen, not just inherited.
The final image of the poem just stays with me. The moon's truth shines ignored.
Yeah.
The machine ticks on. The orbit happens. The universe continues its perfect, silent dance.
Oh.
It is completely indifferent to our refusal to look at the math.
The husband does not require our consent.
It just is. The only question is whether we will join the dance or keep stumbling around in the dark.
Well, on that note, I think I'm going to go look at a star chart.
And I think I'm going to go ponder this Sunnat-Allah.
Thank you for listening to this deep dive into the clockwork firmament.
Dive deep.
And look up.